What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Platinum Podcast. Welcome to the very first episode of this new podcast where we're going to be talking about PlayStation trophies and Platinum trophies. I'm joined today by Joel from GuyFarruski on YouTube. How you doing, Joel?
Good, how you doing?
I am very well. So what we're going to do, because it's a new podcast, we're basically going to have a bit more of a laid-back attitude. We're going to talk about ourselves a little bit, introduce ourselves and introduce our channels. So I'm Lewis from PlatinumBro. My channel is about mainly beating games to the best, completing games. I like collecting platinum trophies, and I like talking about all things PlayStation. What about yourself, Joel?
I basically create gaming playthroughs. I'm not the best of gamer, so you're going to see a lot of fails and a lot of bad attempts. But I try and get good at them.
I've watched his videos and I can confirm it, he does suck. So, alright. What I want to do is we've got this terrible list of things we want to discuss. It's a new podcast, so go easy on us. We're going to try our best to do the best podcast we can. The first thing we want to talk about, so I'll let you take this away, Joel, is why you like trophies and why you like trophy hunting on the PlayStation.
Reason number one is bragging rights. And then reason number two is because of the bragging rights, I kind of became addicted. So the more trophies I unlocked, the more I wanted. And then I just find the next person I can compete with. And I just try and have more platinums than that person.
I mean, it's sort of an addiction, and I feel like there's no such thing as a good addiction. Like, too much of anything is a bad thing. And I would probably agree with a lot of what you've just said for myself. Like, I used to collect achievements on the Xbox. I don't think the system's as fluid, so it wasn't as addictive. So I wanted to finish a few games here and there. And then when I joined to PlayStation, and you start hearing the pings, and you start seeing the percentages, I was just like, oh mama, this is really addictive. So I agree with that. And then sort of bragging rights. I feel like it's quite PlayStation trophies. It's hard to brag about because nobody cares. Like,
that's
so
true.
So it's like, oh yeah, I've just platinum Last of Us, I just platinum Uncharted. People are just like, who cares?
Yeah,
that's very valid. But then also I think being like a nihilist, like a lot of things matter to a lot of different people, and you give meaning to things. So if it matters to you, that's the most important thing. Life lesson, first life lesson of the podcast, the Platinum Podcast, is that you decide what matters in your life.
Exactly. Platinums matter for me.
And
I've had a couple of people that, they started saying, I don't care about platinums, and then once I started getting more, they started getting more. And so I find, the addiction kind of sticks. It can be spread like a virus.
Not best time to talk about them, I don't think, but
Yeah, my bad.
No, I'm kidding, of course. I find that sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't care about platinums, and then when they get home, they're like trying to beat the game just to beat them before you, and actually they secretly really care. They just don't want to admit that they care about it.
Exactly.
So come on, let's just all admit that if you're watching this podcast, we're on the podcast, we all love collecting platinum trophies and bragging about it to people who don't care.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move a little bit further on. So what I want to talk about now is, what games, Joel, are you playing this week that you think of any relevance to us, that you think we may care about?
I think the only game I've been playing, I've been so busy with the videos that I've only had time to play this one game, and it's just because it's an easy platinum. So people who are watching this podcast, give it a go. It's cheap and it's easy, and it's Lara Croft Go. You may have heard it. It's like a kind of a turn-based game. But yeah, it's super easy. You play through it, you got a couple of collectibles, that's pretty much it. A kid could do it. I
agree, I've played that game. It was on, I think it was like my first 20 platinums. It was before I really understood there was this massive world of really easy platinums. And I was like, that game looks pretty easy. It's like a 3-hour platinum, isn't it? It's pretty cush. Well, see,
it's not that game either, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a puzzle game. If you like puzzle games and you like Tomb Raider, it's the game for you.
See, I feel like I'm really impatient with puzzle games, so I would probably say I didn't think it was that easy. Like, I had to use a few hints and stuff and sort of cheat a little bit. I would be like, I failed 3 times. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. Guide, help me.
If it's there, why not use it? That's the thing.
It's like some 12-year-old kid who's like, oh yeah, I just finished Lara Croft. Go, this is how you do it. It's really easy. And I'm just like, I should be able to play this myself. Why am I watching some child who's better than me at every video game ever beat a game?
I take it down to one reason. They have a lot more time than we do. I think adulting ruins the game playing situation.
I think adulting just ruins life, full stop. But yeah, I think a symptom of that is less gaming time.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to like leave these kids depressed who are watching. You know, they're thinking, "Hey, you got something to look forward to when I'm an adult," and then we're just like, "Yeah, you really don't."
Yeah. We've had a few discussions about this podcast, guys, and what we were saying like last week or last time we spoke was that when you're younger and you don't have a job or anything, you have all this free time, and there's all these games you want to play, and you just can't play them because you can't buy them. And then like you flip 5 years later and you've got more money, and you can buy the games that you want to buy, but you can't play them because there's no time. So it just completely flips from having all this time and no games to having no time and loads of games, and it's just no winning. But such is life. What can we move on to next? Oh, my games. I'm getting distracted.
Yes.
Okay, so
what games have you been playing?
What games have I been playing? Well, because of lockdown, I have been playing Overcooked 2 quite a lot with my partner. It's a pretty fun game, I have to say. It's very frustrating at times. It's nowhere near as hard as the first game, but it's pretty fun. And I think that it's quite an easy platinum. It's about 15 to 20 hours, and then you then have to do a lot of DLC, so it's probably about 30 hours in total. I'm very close to getting the platinum. I think I just need to do one little thing. But in other news, moving on from that, I've also been playing Borderlands 2, and I just earned the 300th platinum on Borderlands 2 yesterday. Well, the platinum, which is my 300th. So,
congrats!
Thank you very much. To be fair, it was going to be Last of Us Part 2, and I didn't think it was going to. I think Borderlands 2 deserved it more because I'd played this game. The platinum took 7.5 months, like 90 hours to do. Like 90 hours, not like. So I was doing 10 hours a month basically on and off.
Yeah.
But I felt like that game, I've been with it for a long time. Like I started that game and I'm 9 months older and 7 months older and nowhere any wiser at all, but never mind.
I mean, some games are like that. Some games take ages to platinum because you have so many things to do. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 took me a whole year to platinum.
You've platinumed Red Dead Redemption 2?
I platinumed Red Dead Redemption 2. It was a grind. It was a hell of a grind, especially the online, because online had nothing. You had nothing to do online.
This is like the Great Gatsby when Leonardo DiCaprio tilts the mug. That was what I was trying to do. That is impressive. I feel like people who are watching this should have some serious appreciation for Joel for that. Like he should earn the title of being a trophy hunter. If you weren't too sure, like that is really impressive.
Like, yeah, it was. It was just so time consuming though. It got to the point where I didn't know. I had to divide how long a day I played it because I was getting that sick of it.
Oh yeah.
Especially online because it was such a grind. And I think I played after I did most of the trophies, it ended up the last one I needed to get was the one where you get to level 50 online, and I think I limited myself to like an hour a day so I wouldn't get bored, or like a level a day, something like that. And eventually, a year later, after it came out, I finally did it.
I mean, to be fair, in Red Dead Redemption 2's credit, because I've been playing a lot of the online recently, they've really changed the online, and they've got like all the different rules now. So they've got like the bounty hunting, they've got the collector, trading, and moonshine. So I've been playing quite a lot, probably about an hour a day to 2 hours a day every day for the past 2 weeks, and I've went from like level 10 to level 30, and I've been enjoying it a lot. But I can imagine how, especially if you're playing it by yourself, it would drag quite a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But to be fair, I thought the collectible stuff in the single player would have been the worst. Was it not?
I think in the single player, I think the worst was getting the gold medals.
Oh yeah.
And keep in mind, you get 70 gold medals, and you get none other but a silver trophy.
It is like
a silver trophy.
What a slap in the face it is.
Exactly. I thought, you're gonna get, some gold trophy is gonna, boost my rank. I got a silver.
Yeah,
I can believe it.
That is so poor. I suppose sometimes I think there's that like threshold, isn't there, where it's sort of like, is it worth it? Is the game worth finishing? Because sometimes it's like, is it worth putting all this time in just to get especially like games that are 200 hours long, you think, is it worth the platinum in the end? Sometimes it is. Sometimes you want to do it, and other times you don't. That actually brings us on from along that to our trophy talk. So what we want to do, guys, is every podcast, we're going to do a topic based around PlayStation trophies. So the topic today is, if I can get it up, is name a platinum trophy which you only finished because you hated it so much. So basically, you know those games where you play them and you think, this game is beating my ass and I really want to beat it and get the platinum so I can sort of say like a I win sort of deal. So we don't know what each other have decided on this, so this is completely new for me. Joel, what have you went for? Come on.
Alright, I think people should comment down in the comments below as well what game you guys platinumed that you hated, but for me, it was Dark Souls 2.
Oh wow.
I despise that game. From start to finish, I had nothing but bad experiences with that game. It's too hard. Don't at me. It's too hard. The mobs are extremely hard. The bosses are stupidly easy. And the game is just unfair in general. I think most of the population who have played Dark Souls 2 will probably agree with me. Out of all the Souls games, all the Dark Souls games, it's the worst one. By far.
Have you platinumed any of the other ones?
I platinumed all the From Software games apart from Demon Souls.
So that's Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne and Sekiro.
Sekiro,
that's it. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to Demon Souls to complete it, and then that's it. That's off my bucket list.
That again, Joel's just bringing out these hardcore platinums that he's got, and I'm going to be like, oh yes, my hardest platinum was Walking Dead.
It's patience. I think it's patience. And the From Software ones was bragging for one friend of mine he's that guy who, like you were saying in the beginning, he will finish the game first so he can talk about the game, and most times than not, he will spoil the game for you.
Wow.
So it was just for him.
A spoiler junkie.
Yeah.
Spoiler troll. Don't like them.
No. He does it all the time. What about yours? I'm curious to hear yours.
I want to tell you mine. Mine's not as impressive. But before that, I wanted to ask, because I don't know much about Dark Souls, I'm being honest. Obviously, I know the general. I've never played any of them. I haven't played Bloodborne, I haven't played Sekiro. I watch a lot of reviews on them because Sekiro looks amazing, Bloodborne looks amazing. Dark Souls. If I was to start one, I would do Bloodborne, and then I'll probably decide.
Bloodborne is definitely the one to start with. I started with Bloodborne, and I think the aggressive gameplay gets you prepared for Dark Souls.
Okay.
Because you have no shield in Bloodborne, so you're all about attack, and dodge. Whilst in Dark Souls, you can kind of take a defensive approach. Like you can use a shield, you can be a sorcerer if you want, and you can do spells from a distance. In Bloodborne, it's all close combat. There's no defensive about it. It's aggressiveness. And that's how you play.
Well, there you go. Tips with Joel. We all know how to play Dark Souls now. It would still take me like 3 years to do any of them, but
it'll be worth it though.
Yeah,
it'll be worth it. Maybe. It's addictive. It is.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so mine is a bit of a peculiar one. Not many people have played it. In fact, only 85,000 people have played it on PSN profiles, and that's quite a lot to be fair. That is PlayStation VR Worlds. Have you got a VR?
Okay.
Most people, it was a free game that came with a VR. Okay, and out of the 85,000 people who played this game on PSN profiles, only 569 have platinumed the game. So it's a 0.66%. It's like it's like my rarest trophy that I've got, my rarest trophy list. It is basically a game. It was the demo basically for the VR. So it has like 4 or 5 mini games. There's like a gun shooting. There's like a gang one, which is fine. There is a luge one, there is an underwater one, there is like an alien invasion one, and finally there is a sort of like a ping pong one. And 3 of them are really easy, okay, and then the luge one is really difficult. So luge, I didn't really know what it was. It's sort of like where you lie on a skateboard and you go down hills for speed and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it is disgustingly tough. It took me basically what you had to do is you had to beat a time on 3 tracks. So each track was about a minute and a half long. So basically what you had to do was you had to do that. So it's like 5 minute exercise, and you had to do it about 6 hours to do it. So just doing the same track over and over and over again to remove like milliseconds of time. It was really frustrating. And I did that, and I was like, okay, brilliant. Like, at the time, basically, there's a weekly scoreboard with your time, and I had the best, when I did it, I had the best time for the week, because not many people were playing it. But, like, it's tough, and I've been playing it so much, I got the best time. But then there's this ping pong one, where you sort of have the VR on. If you've played VR World, you know how hard this is. It's sort of like a ping pong, but you hit the ball back with your head, so you have to move. But, you have to get a really high score. And it's like you're basically playing for about 6 to 7 minutes, and the ball every time you hit it gets faster and faster and faster and faster. And it bounces off the walls as it like sort of comes towards you, so it's like insane. You're sort of jumping up and around. It's like you don't know what's going on. You get a massive headache, and it was so brutal. And when I got it, I just deleted VR World. I was like, nah, I've had enough.
Well done to you.
Yeah, it was some serious grind. I don't think I've got the patience anymore.
I always imagine VR games being difficult trophies because, you know, I don't know, I personally have not played much of VR. I couldn't really get into it that much, but I can always imagine, like, getting the trophies really difficult because you have to synchronize your actual body movement. You know, the last time I synchronized my body movement was when I was playing a driving game, the first time I picked up a PlayStation controller, you know, where you turn the controller because you think it's going to help. And then when you, like, wean yourself off of it, I don't know, it's just really hard for me to think of having to synchronise my own body whilst having a controller as well, or like the, what do you call them?
The motion sticks.
That's the ones.
No, you're right, it is tough.
Yeah.
I would say there's a few issues with Platinum in finishing VR games. One being there's not a big audience of people who play them, which means that nobody does trophy guides, or not enough. Yeah. So you don't know how hard a game is going into it to start with, and on top of it, you get motion sickness is really common, and people say you have this thing called like your VR legs, and the idea is that when you start playing in VR, you get dizzy because of the motion sickness. So it takes you a while to build up to be able to play the game for longer than say half an hour to an hour. Some people are fine, some people aren't. So, like for example, Skyrim is a 100-hour platinum in VR, but because of the motion sickness, like I can handle probably about 2 hours in VR before I get to the sixth point where I probably couldn't play. So that would, like, if you imagine, that would take 50 sessions of 2 hours to finish. So the ones that actually require a lot of time, you can't put loads of time in because of how the VR is. So there's that. But it is, and as well, there's not that many developers, and then it's sort of like the smaller developers don't know how to necessarily handle trophies, so they might make them overly hard or overly easy. So it's still new. That's the thing. It's still sort of new to the industry. We've only had it for 3 or 4 years. It's a lot to improve.
I've got high hopes for it. Don't get me wrong. It's just that at this moment, I think they still need to tweak it. But maybe with the PS5, it'll be a lot better.
I agree.
Maybe.
Well, they've said that Sony are going to really support the VR going forward, which I think is brilliant. The VR now will work on the PlayStation 5. For you guys who didn't know that. However, there's going to be a VR 2. But I think it's probably going to be a 2021 or 2022 release because they don't want to release both of them at the same time because it's just too much money for people. Because we all know the PlayStation 5 is going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah,
well, I would say so anyway. I think it's going to be between like £450 to £550. That's my estimate, which is okay. I think more than that from me is I'm a bit sort of that puts me off, and I'm quite a hardcore gamer. You know, we're sitting here talking. We've went the effort to make a podcast about video games, about trophies. To me, that sort of shows a sign that I'm quite a hardcore gamer, and you are as well. And if we are saying that £550 getting to the bit where it's maybe a bit too much, Sony have to really think about it. Yeah, Sony have to really think about it.
I don't think Sony will make the same mistake as they did with the PS3. If you remember, the PS3 was super expensive as well, and like their sales were awful until they released like the other versions and they made the price cheap, and then their sales went back up again. I think that's what Sony do. They'll release the console and they'll probably lose money on the console, but then they'll make it back with the games.
Of course,
you know, they've got the exclusives. They're so good that people will pay for the exclusives, and then they'll make their money back that way. Which it's smart, to be fair. You know, you lose money in the start, but then you make twice as much.
Yeah.
Along the lifetime of the console.
Well, yeah, so, like the PlayStation. You're right. Like Sony are sort of, in a way, they're investing in the customers. So they're maybe take the slight loss initially, but long term, and that's really how you do good business, is looking at the long term.
Yeah. True.
I think because of the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 having such different launches, I think that's one of the reasons why Sony and Microsoft still are holding back so much information, because we would know by looking at the PlayStation 3 how a bad launch can basically ruin a console for its entire generation, because the PlayStation 3 was behind the Xbox 360 for probably a couple of years until it finally caught up. Because I was a 360 boy, and then I was 360 and I went to PlayStation 4. So, because it was, in my opinion, it was a better console. Sorry to say, guys.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think maybe the Elite Xbox was maybe a better console than the PS3. But, I don't know, I had both at one point. I only had the arcade version of the Xbox because obviously it was cheaper, and then I ended up getting like a second-hand PS3. That's why I had both. But I've just always been... Maybe I'm a fanboy, but I've just always been more familiar with the PlayStation.
I mean, I've had every one.
I don't know why.
I had PlayStation 1, 2, and then PlayStation... I had PlayStation 3 and an Xbox 360. But, I mean, come on, Gears of War, come on. You know, Gears of War was such a such a important game for that generation. So
I got Rock Band.
Rock Band. You know what? That's so funny. I was playing Guitar Hero last night on my friend's Xbox 360, playing some epic tunes. I was playing on a hard. I hadn't played it in a couple of years. I was picking up. It's pretty badass. Those were the days.
The game where after like an hour you just like see things moving around because all you're seeing is these things going up.
Yeah, it's such good times.
It was good times. It was.
Okay, guys, so we're going to move on now to just a general game and topic about PlayStation. So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about Iron Man VR. So Iron Man VR came out on the 3rd of July. It's been received quite well. So basically, you know, you take it from a first-person perspective as Iron Man, and they've introduced some really new mechanics to a game that's never really been done before. And by that, it's the flight simulation of the game. So like Iron Man, you use your hands to propel the directions you want to go in. So using the motion sticks, you get to do that yourself, and that's really cool. However, on that actually means that the game's quite tough. So I actually did a video, which you can watch if you want, and I said the game was probably like a 5 out of 10 difficulty. I think actually looking at research now, because when I did it, the game wasn't out, that in fact it's actually probably like a really tough game to play, apparently, because it's such a new thing. So, you know, if you think like if I was to pick up a third-person action game, as you would as well, Joel, you sort of have a understand of how they all work. They all work the same. Every game basically plays the same. So when you pick up a new genre of game that you've never played before, it's really difficult to adapt to the game. So on that, I think it's actually quite a tough game to play, but apparently it's pretty good. So if you're going to pick it up, let us know, and let us know if you think it's a good game or not, because I'd be interested to know if it's worth sort of picking up.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I've seen, like from videos from your video, and I saw a couple of other videos about it, it looks good. It looks a lot better than what I was expecting. Like with VR, you kind of expect, you know, subpar graphics. The graphics weren't that bad, and the gameplay itself looked pretty good. I mean, who doesn't want to be Iron Man, like flying around and busting beams out your hands? It's
exactly. You know. So yeah,
it looks pretty good.
On that, it's a bit of a shame. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there with VR. Which is at the moment you sort of expect a subpar experience, like because the games have been really poor in the history, like so you don't expect these like groundbreaking games, because like, the VR itself is groundbreaking, but you don't expect like them to be as good as AAA games, and I think Iron Man's really trying to bridge the gap there and make a better game.
They need to do it more. They need to take more risks, I think. It's just like I was saying, like for me, because I haven't got the PlayStation VR, but I only see like what other people play and the games that come out. Like I said, I was expecting a subpar game, like maybe, you know, just a little adventure game. I wasn't really expecting a full-on game. When they released Skyrim VR, I was really surprised they were going to do the actual whole game. When they first announced it, I thought it was just going to be like a tiny section, and then you could do a couple of things in there. But you know, They need to take more risks, I think.
I agree.
Because they're just releasing these little games that, like you said, some of them are really easy, and then the other ones are really hard. There's no like, I don't think there's a balance yet. But then again, like you said as well, there's not that much of a high demand. So maybe they're thinking, what's the point in making all this effort, spending all this money if we're not going to get it back?
Exactly.
So,
well,
I don't know.
Don't quote me on this, because I read it a while ago, but I did read about the VR only sold between half a million and 1 million units. So there's 100 million people who own a PlayStation 4, and only 1% or 0.5 to 1% own a VR. so you can that clear the demand isn't there. However, in the defense of VR games, the Walking Dead game that just came out recently, apparently I've seen footage of it. It looks brilliant. It's sort of like an open world zombie exploration game with stealth mechanics, gunplay, decision making. It looks pretty good. It got good reviews. So I think it's getting a bit more support. It's just it may have been a bit too late because a lot of people pick up the VRs now who bought them like 3 or 4 years ago don't always play them. However, I also think as well VR make for great party games. So do you know, like Nintendo, the Wii had all these cool party games. So the VR has them as well. So you get like your Fruit Ninja. VR World is a great party game, and there's loads of other little ones. So it has its uses. It just maybe needs a little bit more support and sugar from Sony. Come on, Sony, what are you doing?
It's not the cheapest of gear either, is it? Because when it came out, it was pretty much the same price as the PlayStation Pro.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I think it was
about £350. Yeah.
So for someone, let's say that has recently bought a PlayStation for £350. Obviously, with our currency, I'm not sure with other currencies, but. And then you have to, if you want to get the VR, you have to pay another £350. That's £700. That's almost £1,000. That's a lot of money to invest in, something that, like you said before, you're only going to be able to play for a limited amount of time a day, or like a limited amount of time within a space of time. Yeah. And obviously, if you're an adult, time is limited because you have a full-time job, or you have kids, or you have pets, or you have a girlfriend. Time is super limited.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think maybe that's why people aren't buying the VR. But like I said, I've got high hopes for the PS5. If they make it better, then I think it's probably going to be groundbreaking.
Well, I would say I agree with all those things. The sort of the threshold to get into VR is hard because it's so expensive. I think I picked mine up on Black Friday of last year or the year before. It was £200, so it was down by like £150. That's why I bought it. But I'm totally on the gravy train now of VR. Like, I will buy the VR 2. However, it'll depend on price again. Yeah. But for the price, we said there, you're right. If you combine, say, £350 for a Pro, and then say £250 for the VR, which is probably what it is now, you could buy like an Oculus VR like headset for the PC. So if you're actually a really hardcore gamer, you could pick those up. And the VR on the PC, they have a much bigger library. They've got Fallout. One of the Fallout games is in VR. They had L.A. Noire. I know L.A. Noire's out for PlayStation now, but they had that for years before. They've got a bigger library of games. So it's sort of like, well, if you don't have a PlayStation, it's sort of like, well, I've got a PC. You can sort of see why people bridge away and go towards the Oculus and things like that. And is it the Hive? Have I got that wrong? I think it is something like that. It's a PlayStation podcast, guys. We're not here to talk about PC gaming. We're not here to talk about the elite class that is PC gaming. But generally, you can sort of see why the VR demographic split because of the price to get into it. That being said, just so you guys do know, if you didn't already, Iron Man is a PlayStation VR exclusive, so it won't be coming off any of the other VR types, which is brilliant. So actually, this is probably the only game that's, I think it might be one of the first big VR exclusives for the PlayStation. So it's putting Sony using the first parties, getting those exclusives in and saying like, we're a strong console, we're the best console, so buy our stuff because you're going to get more in the future. So so that's pretty good. Sony definitely won this console war, I would have said.
Right, for sure. This generation, for sure. Yeah. Next generation, I'm not so sure. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I can't really veer away from PlayStation because trophies. I just can't.
Addicted.
I've spent so much time, invested so much time. I just can't do it in another system. I haven't got the energy.
No, I agree. I
haven't.
Yeah, I would probably, if I got another console, it would be like my casual console where I would just play games, for fun. Do you know when you used to play games for fun and not for trophies? Like that's what I would use another console for. I forgot what that feels like. I forgot what it feels like.
It's true. It's true. The first thing I do when I buy a game is check the trophy list. How hard is it? Yeah. Am I going to achieve it? And then the second thing I do is, are there any missable trophies? Because I don't want to play that game a second time if I'm not enjoying it, for example.
I agree.
It's going to be a grind, so...
Yeah, I agree. To be fair, I'm not going to enjoy it. Like, I am going to say, like, The Last of Us Part 2. I don't want to speak about it too much, because I want to talk about it in detail in another video. But I've played that game just through, without any collectibles, no spoilers or anything. And I think some games are so good that you can just play the whole game. Now, I'm not going to talk about Last of Us whether or not it is good or not, because I know there's loads of controversy about that, but the gameplay is good to play. The game is fun to play, despite everything else. So I could see myself playing through that game again. However, for example, let's say Borderlands 2 had a missable trophy, which I'm not slating Borderlands 2. It's a great game, but if it was a missable trophy, which meant I'd have to do another 80 hours, I would probably blow my brains out. So it's sort of like it is finding the games, isn't it? It's like going, if this game's going to suck, I'm not playing it twice. If the game is, pretty good, you don't mind. I don't mind personally, depending on the game.
Yeah, it all depends on like the difficulty of the trophies as well. Like I have a friend of mine who he platinum Resident Evil 7, and there were missable trophies, and I think he did 5 playthroughs, like in a row. He burnt himself out of the game. You know who you are if you watch this.
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing about Resident Evil, isn't it? It's sort of like it's made to be replayed several times.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a massive Resident Evil. No, you know what? I like Resident Evil. I haven't gained much experience from the franchise because I've only played Resident Evil 5 and 6, which we all know are the worst ones.
I only played 5. I'm too scared to play them. I don't do horror games.
But that's the thing. I don't think they're actually that scary now. I think now I've sort of watched a lot of the footage. I think it's actually nowhere near as bad as people make out it to be. Maybe when it came out in '95, it was a bit scary, like Resident Evil 2. I think Biohazard looked horrifying. Resident Evil 7 looks horrifying. First person horror. Oh my days, no thank you. I would literally probably cry.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil 6 again, it's like I'm going to try and platinum that game, and that's got a lot of replay value in it. Well, no, sorry, it tries to enforce a lot of replay value in it. To be honest, Resident Evil 6 is a very subpar game. It came out in 2013 and it plays like a 2010 game. I don't know what I've heard
a lot of bad things about it.
I don't know what Capcom were thinking with this game, to be honest. When you play something, you think, what a terrible dialogue, terrible plot lines, doesn't explain stuff, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's fun being Chris, because Chris got massive steroid-riddled arms. He just punches zombies' heads clean off.
I know, right?
Uppercuts them, like the head just explodes.
That scene in 5 where he punches a boulder onto Wesker. That was just
guy.
like, that's just too much. I think that ruined it there.
Yeah, to be fair. We give him his nickname, and it's Chris Shotgun Fist Redfield.
Yeah.
Because his fist is so powerful. You'd be like blasting ammo into this zombie, like you'd run out of shotgun ammo, you'd be like assault rifle, and you'd be like, no, it's enough. One punch, obliterate them, explode, and just knock them off the planet. Chris Redfield just doesn't care. I love how he just sort of like in the games he goes from like working for the government to like working just on his own to like back to the government, different governments, to become an alcoholic for 6 months and come back. He's just all over the place. I love it though. I love Chris Redfield. He's the best thing about Resident Evil, I have to say, in my opinion.
That's the thing, because I've only played 5, only know him from 5 as, huge arms, just
massive
punching everything in front of him, and that's pretty much it.
That's all you need to know, mate. That is Chris Redfield. That's on his business card. Punch things very hard. If you ask anything about it, he just punches you and proves his point. So
yeah.
I think we've talked about quite a lot today. I think we might be close to wrapping it up. Do you have any closing statement you want to say, Joe?
If you want to become a platinum hunter, unless you just want to do the easy games, you're going to have to invest a lot of time and be careful. It gets very, very addictive. It
does, to be fair. That's so true. And I think there's a fine line, which I don't want to talk about too much again, because I could probably talk about this for ages, is that there's a fine line between just being a trophy hunter and being a gamer, because I think if you actually look at a lot of trophy hunters, like all they play is really, really, really easy games, and then it sort of takes you out of actually playing really good games. I think there's a fine balance between like playing the easy ones and playing the tough ones, and it's like finding the balance which suits you. Like I'll do like a month of really get stuck in a good couple of AAA games, and then I'll have a month break and I'll just play a few easy ones, and then that's how I do it. It helps manage my fatigue. So because I get RPG fatigue so quickly, like probably got 40 hours in, doesn't matter what the game is anymore. If it's Witcher or if it's anything else. I think the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation was so heavy on RPG, it sort of fatigued me for this whole generation. So there's amazing RPGs, Witcher. I liked Fallout 4 a lot, and there's some really good games, but I find that sometimes I struggle a bit because I've just fatigued for years. So I tend to put in a couple of hours, like a month of maybe 40 hours over that month of RPG a month to the easy ones. Everyone has their own system, but my point is just you figure out what the best way for you to play is, the best way for you to game is, and then you do that, and everybody's happy, sort of. I think because, guys, this is a new podcast, it's only the first episode, we're more than happy, we want feedback. So if you guys have feedback, please let us know in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe to both our channels. We really appreciate the support. We're quite small. The details will be for both channels will be down below. So have a little look, have a little click. We'll have all the Instagram stuff as well if you want to do any of those things. And thanks for watching.
Thank you guys. If you guys want to leave some suggestions as well in the comments below of more topics you'd like us to discuss, let us know.
Absolutely. Alright guys, take it easy.
Bye-bye.